Ms. Beatriz is going to talk about SDG6 challenges, opportunities, and innovation for sustainable sanitation, a global MSME perspective. Ms. Beatriz is a regional social innovation specialist at CAF, the Development Bank of Latin America. She is co-founder of CAF's Social Innovation Department, an area that has become a key complement to CAF's lending operations as well as a source for new businesses. She has led social innovation projects, helping global corporations in 4 continents applying cross-country solutions to tackle complex development challenges. Let me invite Ms. Beatriz Gillen for her session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very, very much for the invitation. So, even if my experience has been more focused in Latin America lately in the past 8 years, I've made an effort to try to include examples from all around the world. So I hope you find it interesting. And please, any questions, I'm reading the chat, so I'll try to incorporate them in my presentation. So I think that you are all well aware of the challenge that we are facing. Almost this is one of the most important challenges that the SDG is dealing with, because we have almost half of the world's population that does not have access to safe sanitation. And these numbers that I am showing you are numbers that come from the UN. And it, as you can see, it's almost 3.6 billion people who do not have access to safe sanitation, which means they have an unsafe toilet or not toilet at all. Which also means that the waste is left out untreated outside, and that causes a lot of diseases. But there's hope. We are facing a great challenge, but I want to leave all of you in this presentation with the idea that there is. I chose this sentence from a report from Ernst & Young that I highly recommend you to read. It's called "Make Way for the Future of Sanitation," and it shows that that there is a new wave of businesses that are disrupting how we provide sanitation in some of the most difficult contexts, creating new enterprise models, new industries, and a new sanitation economy. I won't have time to go deep in what this new sanitation economy is, but I strongly recommend, as I mentioned, that you read it and so that you can have a better understanding of all the potential that lays behind this sanitation economy. So sanitation can create valuable and transformative business opportunities, and at the same time solve one of the world's most urgent development issues. And I wanted to share with you very brief and very simple ideas on how these businesses are being successful at that. The first that we need to have a successful business is to create and increase demand. And from my experience, I would like to highlight that the success for a sanitation and even a water business model, and some of the colleagues here can maybe go a little bit deep on that, but is that the social component is sometimes even more important than the technical component. If you don't work with the community, if the community is not on board with your business, probably you won't have clients. So the social component, you need to have a little bit of a different mindset. And I was saying this because for low-income families, a purchasing decision of some sanitation models is an important decision. They need to spend money on that. And normally when you're trying to sell something, you would include discounts or sales. In these sanitation models, what we've learned is that a better strategy is to create trust with your clients, develop relationships, build this trust, and even have like a model so that the people can look at it and can understand what the solution proposed is. So first, let's try and increase our client base. The second point I wanted to mention is add complementary revenue stream and and make a sanitation part of a broader user experience. We all know that sanitation is not a high margin business. And so we need to find ways to add revenue sometimes to this business model. And I brought a couple of examples from India. So many of you might be even more familiar than I am with these models. The first one is this bus that you can see. It's a sanitation kiosk that was developed by 3S, a company called Saraplast, and it's a toilet integration bus. What does this mean? That you're not only going to the toilet, but you have showers. Then you can you also have a diaper changing station, and even like a vending machines for sanitary pads, and have a woman in the entrance that is greeting you and selling. So it's a whole experience that it's not only going to the toilet. And the second example, also from India, it's called Lutel, and it's offering a refreshing, a kind of a refreshing space for people where you're not only using the toilet, but also you're offered the coffee. So a little bit, this is like the idea of perceiving sanitation as, so how do we reframe our value proposition? And here I would like to point out that some of these business models are not replicable to other areas. So we need to think about this. This might be very successful in India, but going to the bathroom is something very cultural. So so maybe these models that are working well in some regions of the world might not work as well in other regions. I mean, it's not that everything that works we need to scale up everywhere. That I just wanted to make it very clear. The other business case for sanitation business models for micro, small, and medium enterprises is how to add value to toilet resources. Toilet resources, I think you might understand, is a synonym for human waste, but there's been many successful strategies where you add value to these toilet resources, and so you generate a revenue stream. And here I brought some examples from Africa, from Kenya, and from Cambodia. The first one is to add value to toilet resources as quality agricultural inputs. So Sanergy in Kenya is doing that. They are transforming toilet resources into animal feed, and also into fertilizer. And so at the same time, they are helping target two very difficult challenges for food to achieve food security, as well as dealing with the problem of sanitation in Kenya. The other way of adding value to toilet resources is transforming them as here another example from Kenya is sanitation. I don't know if you're familiar with this model, but they are substituting biomass, so wood and charcoal that families use. They are creating they are producing this energy so the families can use this energy. And then also another way to add value to human waste is some very smart solutions that both create agricultural input and energy from them. And that's the example of a company in Cambodia, ATEC, through biodigesters, which I'm sure you're also familiar, but biodigesters have a very big problem that they are very expensive. And so the way ATEC has solved it is through a very innovative financing scheme that allows for families to pay installments. So while the families are saving energy and are saving in agricultural inputs, they pay the biodigester. So we were thinking that these models for sanitation are targeted to low-income families, and so the financing part is also very, very important to have in mind. And you have to be very creative in order to create successful business models. But finally, I wanted to explain more of a personal experience, because one of the key, in my experience, one of the key success factors for MS, medium, small, and micro, small, and medium enterprises to succeed in the sanitation space is to join forces. That allows to reduce cost and risk. And you have to think that many of the solutions I've mentioned are sustainable and are working. In many cases, these are in urban context. When you're thinking in a rural context, especially, I mean, micro in Latin America is very different from micro in India, right? So to be able to achieve scale and a sustainable business model, you probably need to join forces with the public sector or with other actors, the community being part of the solution. I wanted to show you the example of Agua Limpia, which means clean water. It's a rural Peruvian NGO that works with water and sanitation. And they have a very successful model of family sanitation system that with the fee that the families pay, but the fee only covers the operational costs. So everything that has to do with maintenance. And we've seen, unfortunately, there's been a lot of episodes of that has damaged the systems, so that they have an agreement with the local government, and that those costs are covered by the local government. So being very creative in how you build these partnerships is also a key success factor, because you really in many places there we don't have the scale. So we are talking here about 200 families. So it's very, very difficult to build a 100% market-based approach with no help of additional funding. So this also brings me to a little bit of the questions I wanted to leave all of you with, and is that what do we need to move forward? I've showed some examples, so there's hope, but we see that the challenge is great. Almost half of the population not having a still sanitation. The time is ticking. The clock is ticking, and so what should we need? So the two main things are more financing, but more innovative ways of financing, and more PPP, so public-private partnerships. The type of partnerships I was showing you, we implemented in Peru. We need to see how we include these PPPs in our budget. How do we finance these PPPs? How do we, because the way we have been doing until not enough, and some of these micro enterprises, they don't reach enough number of people. So we need to start thinking more like reaching more people and having more impact. And so finance, PPPs, let's collaborate, let's join forces. We sometimes focus on one initiative and then we want to scale this initiative. Well, maybe we need to create more of a systematic approach. So these are questions that we've been talking, and probably someone here in our virtual stage can add more on examples of successful PPPs. But I wanted to leave a little bit. I wanted to close my presentation thinking that first we don't need to lose focus. So we have shown very, very successful examples of how do we, what do we do with human waste, but the idea is that we need to provide sanitation. So let's focus on that, and sometimes we see very flashy solutions, but the importance is that to solve the sanitation problem. And we don't only need the private sector. I mean, this presentation was about more of private sector approach, but we need these joint forces. And second, social factor is key. We always need the community we work with. And the third one, replicability is not always possible. When we see a success business model in India, then we want to replicate it everywhere. But sometimes the context, especially in sanitation, cultural context matters. So we cannot just decide to scale these opportunities. But there's hope. I just also wanted to leave my presentation with the idea that there's hope, but we need to work hard to be able to meet the goals for this SDG 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Beatriz, for that informative session and giving us solutions on what we need to do moving forward as well. And as you said, there is hope and we need to do a lot of hard work. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much, Beatriz.